All right, hello everyone. Welcome to this webinar. I'm super excited about this. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay and see me nicely. I'm seeing the thumbs up, so that's great. I'm really excited about this webinar that we have. We have an absolute rock star with us, Sonya Moisset, who's going to be running through a topic that's obviously very popular because this is an insanely large webinar. I'm really excited by how many of you are actually here today. So just some quick housekeeping before we get involved into the main event. There are prizes to give away today. How you win prizes is by participating. So joining in the chat, I see that there's a lot of people in the chat right now. Hello, everyone. There's going to be some polls. There's going to be questions. I'll show you how to use all that. But if you're active, then you go into the draw to win some cool prizes from here. So make sure you let us know what your thoughts are. Well, kind thoughts. Don't get too carried away and participate. So we had 1,700 people register for this. As you see, the chat's going absolutely mental. So I've seen that there's quite a lot of you that have actually come. Yeah, really, really insane. And thank you so much for coming here. I see that Griffin Gandhi is trying to trick the system by spamming the chat. So it's not going to work. You're not going to get your prize that way. Let us know where in the world you are. So I'm coming in from Utrecht in the Netherlands. It's close to Amsterdam. Ethiopia, USA, Portugal. Wow, this is so fast. Colorado, Nigeria, Kenya, Los Angeles, New Zealand. Kia ora. I'm actually from New Zealand, so I must be insanely early in New Zealand. So ka pai for coming on the chat this early for you. Sonya, whereabouts are you based at the moment? Are you in the UK?
I'm based in London. Yeah. Is
Nice.
there anyone from France in the chat? So I'm not the only one.
Egypt. There we are. France. Nicholas. Ireland. God, it's going so fast. Quebec. Pakistan, I think, seeing. Very, very good. All right, so just quickly, you've all figured out the chat already, I can see, but this is where the chat on the platform. Now, as you can see, the chat can get really noisy, so this is a great place to talk to other attendees. Don't be shy to use it when it comes down here. But if you want to ask questions, there's a better way to do it. There's a questions button down there. Now you can ask a question. This will come in. And here's what's something important. You can upvote other people's questions. So if you have a question, you don't need to wait to the end. Just type it in there. If you see a question that you also like, don't repeat that question. Give it an upvote. And that will help us distinguish what questions people most want to have, because we're going to try and get through as many as we can, but we are a little bit limited on time with Sonya here. And lastly, there's going to be some polls down here, so you can participate in those as well. All right, so before we get started, I have to share some exciting news. If this is your first time here, these webinars are done monthly. They're brought to you by GitGuardian. So I will just start off by sharing some exciting GitGuardian news that we have at the moment. And that is that this month we have released a brand new module, a brand new tool and service called Has My Secret Leaked? And what this does is you can go to Has My Secret Leaked and you can find out if your secrets have ever been leaked publicly. Now, I know what you're thinking. This seems like a bad practice, copying plain text secrets and send them somewhere. These are hashed locally in your browser, and they will send off, and it will show you what you have. But the website is really just a bit of a marketing gimmick for the main event. So I just want to show you what really is the power. And anyone that's maybe used GG Shield, it's our CLI tool, you can actually find out if your secrets have been leaked with GG Shield. So we have some secrets here, some AWS keys. Now, I just want to say these are fake for anyone that wants to try and mine crypto with them. I see you. I see you. But what we can do is we can take this text file, we can encrypt it. Well, not encrypt, sorry, wrong word. We can hash it so that we only have the hashes of these secrets. And if we have a look at what's inside our payload, say this is the hashed files, we'll see that these are just kind of simple hashes, and these are what will be sent to GitGuardian. And then we can send these hashes off to query our database and see if these secrets have ever been leaked. It's remarkably fast. It queries billions and billions of commits and 7 years of data. The results that come back are encrypted, but we can decrypt them using GG Shield. And this will actually let us know if our secrets have ever leaked out publicly or not. So this is a really cool feature that we can have. And even cooler yet, you can actually integrate it into some of your secrets managers and vaults. So that's going to be coming up soon. So there we are. The advertisements are out of the way. We can get to why everyone is here, which is the main event. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to invite Sonya to share her screen. And I'm going to mute myself. So Sonya, the show is for you. Thank you so much. If we could all, I see everyone's using the emojis, but if we can welcome Sonya with some emojis, that would be great. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to this webinar, Crack the Code, a beginner's guide to ethical hacking. So what are we gonna look today? What we're gonna talk about? So first of all, I'm gonna talk about what is ethical hacking for those who are new to this field. I'm gonna talk about a few tools, best practices, what a day in the life of an ethical hacker looks like. Then we are all going to hack patch app. So how exciting. We're gonna try as a team to do so. And then I will finish with giving you a little bit of ideas on how to do reporting, disclosure, and some resources. So let's get started. So let's try to unlock the secrets of ethical hacking. So first of all, let's take a step back and define what is ethical hacking. So first, around the process, ethical hacking is to identify, exploit vulnerabilities in computer system or networks in a responsible and lawful manner. And this is really important in that sense. Who are the human behind ethical hacking? So we usually have the term ethical hackers or white hats. They usually use techniques and tools to improve the security of the system or network. And what about the goal of ethical hacking? What is it? So it's to identify weaknesses before they can be exploited, unfortunately, by malicious hackers. But also, on the other hand, is to help organizations, companies to strengthen their security measures to prevent unauthorized access, data breaches, and other cybersecurity attacks. And there are a few vulnerabilities that you could uncover doing ethical hacking. So, for example, you can discover loopholes, inconsistencies, and vulnerabilities across the data stack. You can also try to scan public data to discover any sensitive information that hackers could potentially use to breach the system of the organization. You can identify open ports that should be closed. You can also uncover entry points in firewalls, in intrusion detection systems, and honeypots. This might be also interesting. And this is just some vulnerabilities that you could uncover. So what does a day in the life of an ethical hacker looks like? So obviously you won't go through all of this test, but this is usually the methodology that you should potentially use if you're doing ethical hacking. So a typical day in the life of an ethical hacker should involve a range of activities that you can see from planning and preparation down to analysis and reporting. And ethical hacker will use a variety of tools and techniques to identify potential vulnerabilities and weaknesses in a company's security defenses. And then they will work to exploit these vulnerabilities in a controlled and ethical manner. This is really important. It should be ethical. So let's take each of these steps and understand what it's all about. So the first one is planning and preparation. This is really important because before beginning any ethical hacking project, it is really important for us to define clear goals and objectives. So this would include identifying the scope of the project to determine which systems and network will be tested, as well as the limitations and restrictions that may apply. You also will gain a thorough understanding of the targets, and it will be easier to also understand the environment. And obviously, you'll also have a good understanding of which tools you should potentially use to do this pen testing or ethical hacking of the app. Then you move to the reconnaissance phase. So this is to gather information about the target system or network without actively engaging with it. So this is usually passive reconnaissance. And This would involve searching online forums, social media, scanning public databases, analyzing public-facing websites, all of this information just that you can gather. And then you can move on to a more active reconnaissance. And this is when you move to scanning and enumeration. So scanning and enumeration, this is when you conduct, as I said, active recon. This would be identify open ports, services and vulnerabilities, map the network, identify assets. And this would allow you to develop a comprehensive understanding of the target environment and develop a plan for thorough testing. So it's really important that you spend time on reconnaissance, scanning, and enumeration, because this will help you for the next step, which are exploitation and post-exploitation. So exploitation, this is you are attempting to exploit the vulnerability, so you can gain access to the target system, you can establish a foothold and maintain access. Then for the post-exploitation, you can conduct further reconnaissance and enumeration if you want to do so. You can escalate privilege, you can pivot to other systems just to see if this is possible in the application that you're testing. You can see if you can cover your tracks also and maintain persistence. And then comes the most important part of it. It's analysis and reporting. So analysis is important because you will need to analyze all the data that you've collected through all of these the steps. You will identify the weaknesses and the vulnerabilities, and then you will prepare a detailed report on the findings. I will come back to the reporting because this is really an important step for that. Then you'll do some communication and collaboration, because sometimes you can discuss the findings with the companies. You can collaborate with the team members, so potentially the security team, the development team. You can also provide recommendations for remediation, and this is really important to have the recommendation within your reports. And then on a more personal side for ethical hacker, there's the continuous education and professional development piece. So this is to keep up with the latest trends and tools. This is to maybe, if you want to pursue certifications and online training, and to attend conferences and network with peers. So, talking about tools, there are a plethora of tools that you could use to do ethical hacking. And also, an hour is not enough to cover all of the tools. But just wanted to ask in the audience, do you have any favorite tool that you're using? If you're doing ethical hacking or pen testing, just drop it here. So just to go through some of the tools that I have here. So you have Burp Suite to proxy requests. You have Metasploit. This is good if you want to use payloads to probe applications and network. You have Wireshark. This is a packet sniffer for network. You have Calibox. This is great if you want to learn a bit more about all the tools. This comes with hundreds of tools, and you can learn a little bit more about those hacking tools, which is great for the learning piece. You have Nmap. This is to map the network and see if there's any vulnerabilities. On the web application side, you can use Webalizer to learn a bit more about which framework they're using, which version. This is great to see if there's any vulnerabilities on this. Also, you can use Snyk. I'll demo this. And you can also use GitGuardian if you want to flag credentials, because why not? Yeah, it's also important to have the different tools in your tool belts, just also for the your learning experience, just to know that you have alternatives. But always understand which tool is the best for the projects. So before moving to hacking, patch to the app, let's see a couple of best practices that we need to keep in mind before doing ethical hacking. So the first thing is to obtain permissions before conducting any testing. And this is also, if you're doing bug bounty or vulnerability disclosure program, you should also always have the permissions to actually test the application from the company. Also make sure to follow all relevant laws and regulations just to be on the safe side, because we're doing ethical hacking. Don't use tools or techniques that could cause damage or disruptions. We are here to actually uncover vulnerabilities in the application. We're not here to destroy the application of a company. So be ethical when you're actually using the tools and techniques. Keep this in mind, because this is really important. Don't try to brute force an application because you want to have that kind of results. Document your findings. This is really important. Provide a report to the owner, and we'll come back to that. So those are some of the best practices that we need to keep in mind before hacking. So let's live hack patch to the app. Patch app is under attack. This looks like a little bit of clickbait, because we're here to talk about ethical hacking. We're not actually here to live hack that poor patch application. But So I'm a long-time ethical hacker on HackerOne. As you can see, this is one of HackerOne page, and like every morning I sit down in front of the directory of program with my cup of coffee, and I had a look if there's any new interesting programs I could be part of. And this morning I did find that Patch had a new app listed on HackerOne. How cool is that? So just trying to have a look at what is actually going on with this new program. So the Patch 2 app, cool. So if you're part of HackerOne, Background Integrity, and all of these programs, usually have the same kind of information. This is the policy page, and this is considered as the rule of the games, if you want so. So the kind of information that you find here is usually the scope. So this would be the endpoints, the API, the URLs that you could potentially test in the program for a company. You also have the list of tools that you can use and that you shouldn't use also, and this comes back to when we're talking about brute forcing. The email format that you can use to test. This is also for the security team to check in the logs if you were part of the HackerOne program, for example. Some of the vulnerabilities that they might consider important if found, some vulnerabilities that they can call low-hanging fruits, and they're actually more interested in more complex vulnerabilities. If they do talk about duplicates also, and their definitions of duplicates. You can also find the same with the thanks for the thank you page, which is the page where you would find previous findings. And if you want to learn actually more about different findings, you can actually go to the activity page. And this is usually a page where, if it's publicly available, because sometimes companies will disclose publicly the findings, this is a good way to learn new vulnerabilities, what was the vulnerabilities and how they can actually remediate that. So now let's have a look and let's test this this patch to-do app. So this is how it looks like. So we have a patch to-do list. That's cool. So looking at this page, what can I do? Do you have any ideas? So now we are at the reconnaissance phase. I want to understand a little bit more about the application. So what I'm seeing here on the chat, I can see there's a lot of XSS, SQL injection. This is the expectation phase. We need to understand a little bit more and do reconnaissance phase, so just to understand the architecture, if we could find any interesting information on it. So what we could do, I'm seeing a few answers on like inspect and try to temper potentially with the URL. So that's a good call. So here what we have, obviously because it's a to-do list, I can try here and I'm saying I can create to-do entry. I can delete it, but that's not what I'm interested in. So let's try if I can actually navigate the other way around here. God, that's a bit annoying, but I'm pretty sure maybe I can find something. Let's see with the inspect if I can find anything interesting. So here I can see there's a CSS file on the public folder. Okay, let's have a look with the with this if I can find anything interesting. Okay, I can find the public folder. So if I can have a look here with notice some CSS. Okay, there's some JavaScript. What else? Robots.txt. Okay, let me see if I can go up more one folder. Oh, I'm back to the home page. Okay, great. Any ideas how I could potentially try to bypass this? Because there's always a way to bypass things, unfortunately. So here, what I'm trying to do is to perform a path traversal, and what I want to do here is to know a little bit more about the architecture and if I can find any interesting files. So what I could do potentially is actually URL encodes the dot/. So URL encoding is basically I'm going to replace the dot with %2e and the slash with a %2f. So if I'm going back to public and I'm going to put this, so I've actually encoded this. Wow, look at that! I did actually bypass the sensation that it was in place. Cool. So as you can imagine, there's way more information now that's really cool. And you can imagine for potentially a malicious actor, this is a great opportunity for that person to understand what is going on with this application. So what do we have here? We have the routes. Okay, so there's a bit more info on different routes. What else do we have? Okay, there's literally all of the API logic here. What else do we have? Deploy Heroku. This is great. This is giving us information on the deployment process. How convenient is that? Then the Docker compose YAML file. Oh, look at that. Plain text creds. That's cool. So while you're doing this, what I would recommend when you're doing ethical hacking, when you're actually pen testing an application, make sure to write down all of the commands, take screenshots, and all of the steps that you're actually doing during this this pen testing or ethical hacking exercise, just to make sure that you actually capture all of the steps that you are doing for that. What else do we have? We have the package.json. This is also great because we could potentially have a look at all of these packages and see if there's any vulnerabilities that we could potentially leverage for another vulnerability. Cool. So we do have a lot of information here. So I'm going to move to my ID because I have a copy of the code on my machine, which you shouldn't actually have a copy because this is part of the HackerOne program, and you should only be able to test the endpoint. But as you can see here, I do have access to the whole code base because of the path traversal. But just for the sake of the webinar and just to understand what is going behind the scene, and just to have a better understanding, let's have a look at what is happening in the code. So here we can see that it's a full-fledged application. There's a lot of dependencies here. Just going to zoom a little bit more so everyone can see and make sure that it's clear. So we can see this is a JavaScript application. More specifically, it's using an Express, the Express framework. There's a lot of routes. There's a lot of middlewares. That's cool. That's actually great information because now we do understand a bit more about a few of the endpoints that we could potentially test as well. Oh, there's a chat endpoint that we'll look at after. What else do we have? Oh, okay. So this is potentially where we are serving the static assets here. So it's using the ST package. Okay. The ST package, cool. Let's have a look at the package.json. So here we do have, so this is the manifest file. Well, we have all the dependencies that we're using for this application. So there are dependencies which are pushed to production and the ones that are used for development. So here, if I have a look at the ST package, we'll see if there's any vulnerability that we could potentially leverage. So here we're seeing that patch is not happy. It's telling us that there's 2 vulnerabilities here. So I'm using VS Studio Code, and I have the Snyk integration here. So if you want to implement the Snyk integration, you can just go on the marketplace, and this works for all of your IDs, and then you can install it. You'll need to reload your ID to take into account. And the first time you won't see all of the, if you have any vulnerabilities in your project, you'll see patch asking you to authenticate with your Snyk account. Once you've done that, you can scan the code. So here we can see the ST package has some vulnerabilities. So let's have a look at the potentially those vulnerabilities. And we have directory traversal. Okay, yeah, this is basically what we've actually done. So this is cool. But as I mentioned, we're not supposed to have access to the codes on our ID. So that was just wanted for Elizabeth, just to be visible to show you this. But let's assume we don't have access to the codes, but we still want to understand what is going on. So I would assume that we've been through the package.json and we've seen that the ST package, this is this version that we're using. So I'll have a look at the Snyk Advisor, which is website where you can potentially look at different packages around npm, pipe, Hygo, and Docker. So I'm going to put ST package here and have a look. I'm going to zoom a bit more. Yeah. So here we're checking against several dimensions. You can see security, popularity, maintenance, and community. So the ST package is used to serve static files. And here we can see that the latest version actually doesn't have any vulnerabilities, which is great. But the version that the application is using, unfortunately, has a couple of security vulnerability. Also, you can see the popularity, maintenance. Well, it's not maintained anymore, so it should be a signal potentially to use another package. This is potentially something that you could put on your reports. just make sure to take screenshot just to put it on your report that you've actually found a path traversal, and now you're looking at the version just to better understand what is going on. So here you can see that the top vulnerabilities here, there's open redirect and directory traversal, which is actually the version that we're using. So here, if I close this one, we can see it's the 0.2.4. Let's see, directory traversal. So here, this is great if you want to build up your report, because you actually have all of the info that you could put. You have the proof of concept, you have the CVSS, you have the details of the vulnerabilities. So all of this good information, you can actually put it on your report and make a strong case to demonstrate the vulnerability. And also, the good news is you do have remediation, and this is really important to put the remediation in your report, so the developers and the security team will understand a bit more what is going on, and also there's actually something that they can do to fix that vulnerability. So we have the remediation, we have the proof of concept, and yeah, we do have a little bit of the proof of concept and a little bit more in details what is a directory traversal. So for those of you who don't know what is a directory traversal, so it's also known as path traversal. It aims at access files and directories that are stored outside of the intended folder, and we're manipulating the ... or sequences and variation. In our case, we are actually bypass using the %2 and %2f to do a sequence of the ... Cool. And in our case, we had information disclosure, because if we actually continue to do so, so let me just to make sure that I'm not copying. So here, for example, obviously I'm hosting the application on my computer, so you can see the files that I have and the folders that I have on my computer. But imagine that it's actually really hosted on this endpoint, the patch LTD, and you can imagine actually what you would have on the server. And here I've seen it on the chat. Obviously, the crown jewel for the attackers would be to actually visit this SC folder and have access to the password and other credentials. But you get the ideas with this this vulnerability. Just going to go back to the front page here. Cool. Sorry, going back here. So yeah, so if you want to actually construct your report on that, you have all of this information, because usually you also have the calculator. So this would help you to put the severity of the finding. Cool. So this was one of the first finding. We were still in the reconnaissance phase, and we had a better idea of what was going on with this application. So we could potentially now navigate to all of the files, to all of the directories. So if I go back to where I was before with the /public/ here, now I can go to each of these directories and have a look at all the files, better understand what is going on with the this application, and try to find more vulnerabilities. So this is what we're going to actually do. So I've seen a few of you talking about XSS potentially, because this is actually quite convenient. You have a big input in the middle, because we're talking about to-do lists, and we'd potentially expect that this input might be vulnerable to XSS. You're right. Actually, it is vulnerable to XSS. But I thought this vulnerability is potentially well known, so XSS and SQL injection. And I thought it would be more interesting to actually demonstrate another vulnerability. Potentially. So going back here, just going to put back the public and this. So going back here, if you remember, so I had to look at the package.json. So I have a better understanding of all the vulnerabilities that has been used here. But also I had to look at the routes folder. And here we do have the index.js, which is giving us information on all of the API behind the scene for this application. So I'm going to move on to the IDE just because it's a little bit clearer here, but I'm going to come back to the index. So that's the same. The index.js is the same as this one. It's just a bit more colorful. Cool. So what do we have here? So we can see that this is actually the file where we have all of the API documentation for potentially logging. So that's cool. We have logging. What else do we have? We have some details around save account. So we might think that there's potentially an authentication service behind the scene. What else do we have? Potentially, oh yeah, all of the logic behind the to-do list. So how to create, to read, to update, and to delete all of the to-do. So we do have all of this. Okay, that's cool. And this is what is expected in this file, because we're talking about to-do application. What else do we have? Just gonna keep scrolling to the bottom of this this file. We might see something interesting. Oh, look at this. New endpoint to handle chat messages. Yeah, also, when you push to production, don't forget to remove the comments, because this could also give it away. So what else do we have? Do not push this to production. Oops. Okay, that's interesting. Let's have a look what is going on. So this is a primary chat message endpoints with two kinds of users. So you have regular users and admin. Okay, they could potentially delete some things. I guess maybe delete messages. What else do we have? So we do have the endpoint, which is chat. Okay, this is giving us a little bit more info on how to construct the message. What else they're using? They're using weird symbols with merge. Okay, we'll come back to this. Just like having a quick read through the code. We could delete messages. So from there, I guess only admin could do so. Okay, cool. Let's have a look at this chat endpoints, because probably they've pushed it to production. Oops, they did. Okay. We would expect something a little bit more fancy for a chat app. Maybe they were still in development, but unfortunately, a developer pushed it to production. Okay, so let's have a look more at the here. What do we have? So as I mentioned, there's like two types of users. So okay, I'm just gonna open my terminal here and do some sanity check with curl. So I'm using curl to actually use a GET request just to use this to this endpoint. I should get the same result. So I'm having an empty array here. This is the same as this one. Everything's fine. Cool. So I'm going to try to create a message as a regular user. So I'm still using curl. I'm using this time the put request, the same endpoints. I'm using the content type application JSON, and I'm using the same format, the user password that I found in the API documentation with a message. Let's see. So I have OK true. So if I refresh, okay, I have the message. So everything's working fine. I'm just going to populate this a couple more times. I'm just going to refresh here. I have 3 messages. That's cool. So as a regular user, I shouldn't be able to delete messages, right? So I'm going to try with the delete HTTP request. Same endpoints, same data, and I'm targeting message ID number 1. So I want to delete the first message. Let's see. Access denied. Cool. So everything's working fine. As a regular user, that's cool. Okay. Let's go back to the code, because there's one piece of code that was a little bit funny. Is this one? So this one is actually the naming convention for Lodash. Lodash, which is a utility package in JavaScript to help us write function. And here, in our case, it's using the merge function. So if you're not familiar with this, you can actually go to the official documentation and have a bit more read on that. And this is also the exciting bit with ethical hacking. You're actually learning a few things about a language, even if you're not an expert on it. So I would recommend doing so, to go on the official documentation. Also, the same, don't forget to actually put all of your commands that you've done for your reports. All of the commands that I've done here, put it on your report just to demonstrate as a regular user, and then trying to bypass this. Cool, so here we're using Lodash. So let's have a look if, well, first of all, which version of Lodash we're using, and if with this particular version of Lodash, there's any vulnerabilities that we could potentially exploit. So we're going to go back to Snyk Advisor. I'm going to go here and type Lodash. Cool, and we are using the version 4.17.4. Okay, let's have a look. This one, 4.17.4. This one, okay. So what do we have? Command injection, RDOS, what else? Prototype pollution. Okay, interesting. That's an interesting one. Okay, let's have a look at this one. And usually what you would do is actually have a look at the what you have in the codes, and if you can revert it, mirror with the if there's any proof of concept. I'm gonna go back here just because it's a little bit more visible here, and have a look at the Lodash. Where is it? Is this one? Cool. So here what we have, so it's introduced in this version, and the good news is fixed with this version. So again, you can put it in your report, and you have all of the definition, what is Lodash. So as I said, this is JavaScript utility library. It's also giving you a proof of concept, and you can also compare it with what you have in the code. So we do have the required Lodash at the top because we need to import the dependencies. We have a malicious payload. Maybe we could use this one to try and implement the property that was only available for admin. This one, as a regular user, I shouldn't be able to delete messages. Let's see. And then we have the empty objects. And then we have this, the lodash.merge. Okay, cool. So you might be asking, what is prototype pollution? Good question. Prototype pollution is a vulnerability affecting the JavaScript ecosystem. And prototype pollution refers to the ability to inject properties into existing JavaScript language construct prototype, such as objects. And we could potentially use some of their magical attributes, including the proto. Cool. Well, let's do this. So I'm still a regular user, but now I'm going to craft a malicious payload. Let's see. So here what I'm doing. So I'm actually doing a put request. So the same endpoint, the same content type, the same data with the name and password, the same message, well, with a little hacker emoji. And here I've actually implemented this malicious payload prototype. I want to pollute the object with can delete true. Let's see. Okay, so this actually apparently worked. Let's see now if I can delete a message. I'm just going to go back here. So here I'm using, again, the delete HTTP request, and I'm targeting message number 1. Oops. You can see here, if I go back here, the when I first tried the curl delete, here I had access denied because I'm a regular user. I'm not an admin. But here now I have okay true as a response. And if I go back to the application, so that's the first message. It's gone. And we have the hacker message here. Okay, let's see if I can do the same with other 2 messages. Okay, apparently it's working. Okay, and if I refresh, oops. Well, that's a good vulnerability found that you could potentially also translate into reports. So all of the steps that I've taken here, so going through the package.json to demonstrate that the Lodash package, that specific version, has a vulnerability, which is the prototype pollution. Then you can demonstrate with the different payloads, with different curl commands. This is a good way, step by step, just to let the security team and the development team know about that vulnerability. Also, that we've seen on the comments, this potentially shouldn't be pushed to production. So maybe put it as a feature flag or do something to not be pushed on it. Cool. So going back here, that was an interesting program for Patch. I did have a lot of fun for this. So what was the 2 vulnerabilities? The first one was path traversal, and we've used path traversal for reconnaissance because we wanted to know a little bit more about the application. We wanted to know a little bit more about the dependencies, the architecture, the API endpoints, deployments, potentially some credentials in the world. So these are all like really good findings. And if I go back to here, actually, some of the we can see hard-coded credentials. This is actually good. Good amount of bounty that we could get for this specific program. So cool. Gonna get rich. Thanks, Patch. So here, this could be exploited by manipulating user inputs. And here, in a sense, we've actually bypassed the ... with the %2 and %2f. And it leads us to data exposure, to system compromise, and unauthorized access to resources, because we're not supposed to have access to these resources. The second vulnerability, this is more, we move to the exploitation phase, because this is all the hard work that we've done during reconnaissance, looking at all of the files and folders. We actually discovered that there was an endpoint that had been pushed to production and probably shouldn't be pushed. And then we try to have a look at if there's any vulnerabilities that we could leverage. So prototype pollution, this is to modify the prototype of an object and will affect all instances of that object. It could be exploited by injecting malicious data into an app's input that is later used to update the prototype chain. and this could lead to arbitrary code execution, DOS, and unauthorized access to sensitive data. Fun stuff. But the good thing is we've actually reported to patch. So we've tried to make the patch application a little bit more secure. Cool. So what's next? I did talk a lot about reporting and bug bounty. So let's have a look at what it is. So vulnerability disclosure program versus bug bounty. Those are how you could promote security through disclosure and rewards. So there's a difference between the two. So the VDP, which is the Vulnerability Disclosure Program, it's a framework for individuals to privately report vulnerabilities that they can discover in an organization, software, or systems. And they will focus on responsible reporting and collaboration between the discoverer and the organization. And VDP usually don't offer financial rewards, so you will get potentially points or swag from the company. You can have your name also on their Hall of Fame. If you're lucky, but it's also to aim to provide a secure channel for reporting, for prompt patching of vulnerabilities, and you may also publicly disclose details after an appropriate period. So that's the first step. And also for companies is if they're not used to have bug bounty, it's also a good way for them to have that safety net actually for people to report those security vulnerabilities. Then when they're more confident or where they think that they have all of the low-hanging fruits and they want more complex vulnerabilities, they can move on to a bug bounty. So you have the public and private bug bounties. And this is also a program where organizations will invite external researchers to find security vulnerabilities in their systems and softwares. And in that case, for bug bounties, they do offer financial rewards as incentives for discovering and responsibly disclose these vulnerabilities. And depending if it's public or private, you can also learn through those findings, which is also interesting just for your learning. Reporting. So the importance of reporting in ethical hacking cannot be overstated. This is really, really important. The information contained in the report can have a significant impact on an organization's security posture and the safety of their systems, data, and users. And the important thing is the report has to be well written, and this could help the organization to identify the vulnerabilities, to assess the risks, and to prioritize the remediation efforts. So it's also, this is for the organization, but also for the ethical hackers. This helps to be transparent about their findings, their recommendations, and to help the organizations to address their vulnerabilities and improve their security postures. And also one thing to keep in mind, without reporting, ethical hacking could easily cross into unethical or illegal territory. So just to be on the safe side, make sure to do well-written reports where you actually have step-by-step which command you've used. You can use it with screenshots, with videos. What did you do? What was the end goal for this, which vulnerabilities you wanted to demonstrate, what are the remediation, because this is really important. Please don't forget to put remediation in your reports. Some parts that you should include in your reports should be the scope and objectives, obviously, because you want to be accurate in which endpoint you've tested, your methodology, the findings of vulnerabilities, risk assessment. This is really important. The severity. So sometimes you have calculator, and usually, for example, HackerOne and Background, you do have a form to fill in, and you have all of those details to fill in, which help you actually produce this detailed report. So you'd have the risk assessment, the severity ratings, the recommendations for mitigations. And just also to keep in mind that you should also have ethical considerations such as be honest, accurate, and also don't boast those findings on Twitter or on social media. Just be respectful for third-party agreements, because this is really crucial. Usually when you're part of a bug bounty program, you're assigning an NDI, so make sure that you do respect those. Also, I wanted to touch point on ethical hacking and artificial intelligence. So this is also going to the overarching cybersecurity and the use of AI within this field. And this could be a powerful alliance. So the thing with AI, you need to keep in mind that there's a dual nature of AI. There's the good side that you could potentially leverage and will help you to automate security testing, for example, help you to flag some patterns and anomaly detection. So this is great using AI in these tools. But there's also the dark side of AI through potentially not ethical hacking, but just hacking. And you can think of malicious actor leveraging intelligence, artificial intelligence, to craft malicious payloads in a sense. So there's a few benefits. There's a couple of benefits using AI in ethical hacking and cybersecurity, because it will help you have a quick vulnerability scanning. For example, it will enhance threat detection and response, and this is also for the security team, just to leverage those in the company. Also, we reduce human errors, because they do actually learn on a huge data sets, and they can pinpoint some patterns or weird behaviors going on. But as I mentioned, there are challenges and ethical considerations that we need to keep in mind, because sometimes we could have hallucinations, unfortunately, coming from AI, from these tools. We could have false positive and false negative. We also need to have human that are behind, just like look at the data and the results, just to make sure that we are not going through false positive and oscillations. And also the ethical considerations, just to make sure that we're using AI in the rightful manner, and just not go mad with AI. But this is also a food for thought. I don't know if you've potentially used or leveraged AI in your day job, if you had experience with AI, and also applying it to ethical hacking. You can put it in the chat. We can continue the discussions also. So before closing, I wanted to share a few resources also to help you continue your learning through ethical hacking. So at Snyk, we did create a dedicated ethical hacking hub, which is this one, where you can actually find all of the points that I've touched here. So what is ethical hacking? If you want to learn more about techniques, what is a VDP, what is bug bounty, how to create a good report. So this is all of these goodies. If you want to learn a bit more, you can go to this hub. Also, I did write a white paper on a day in the life of an ethical hacker. So I did mention at the beginning of this webinar, but if you want to go in depth and understand what it looks like to be an ethical hacker, you can also read this white paper. With GitGuardian, we actually did a joint cheat sheets on if you want to learn more about how to secure your CI/CD pipeline from code to cloud. Always good to have those those guardrails in place, and to better understand. And also, you could potentially apply those in ethical hacking. If it's missing in the application, you can give those in recommendation. SnykLearn, if you want to upskill and learn a bit more about security vulnerabilities, SnykLearn is our free online platform where you can actually learn more about security. So depending on the ecosystem that you're using, you can see here. I just want to zoom in because this is a bit too small. Yeah. So here you can see we have lessons on JavaScript, Go, Python, Kubernetes, C++, Java, PHP, C#. So let's see. We were talking about JavaScript, and what we're talking about, traversal. Yeah, so you have, for example, one pager on it, and this is all sandbox, so you can potentially do the vulnerability here. So it's safe. It's within your browser. It's you can find everything on one page, and at the end of usually the lesson, you can have a quiz just to make sure that you're understanding what you're reading. If you don't know where to start, because maybe it's a little bit daunting to learn more about security, we do have a couple of learning paths. So just going to go here. So we do have a couple on OS Top 10, Snyk Top 10. If you go through all of these lessons, the good news is you can have a certificate, which is great. You can share it on your social. But more importantly, you'll learn more about security. And also, if you think that the lesson is a bit too much to digest in one go, you can actually create a free account, and I'll keep progress on it, and you can come back at another day. And if you don't know which next lesson you want to learn, this is like this Netflix for security. You have those recommendations here. Cool. So this is SnykLearn. If you're more a visual person, we do have a Snyk YouTube channel. This is where we're hosting all of our webinars. If you want to have a look at it. Yeah. So I'm Sonya Moisset. I'm a senior security advocate at Snyk. I'm passionate about DevSecOps, AI, and cybersecurity. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn at Sonya Moisset. If you're interested AI and cybersecurity, I did write a few articles and books that are published, and you can have it on the link tree at Sonya Moisset to find those. And yeah, just wanted to say thank you for inviting me today. I hope that you've learned a couple of new vulnerabilities and tricks. Also, if you want to continue on the path of ethically hacking, so keep on ethically hacking, please. Thank you.
That was absolutely awesome, and there's so many emojis coming through now. I'm wondering if our platform's about to crash. So I think people liked it. But that was really cool. We have lots of questions coming through, and a couple of them have already been answered. But we'll go through and we'll see that. But first of all, there's some questions that I want to answer. So just a reminder of how the Q&A works. There's a questions button. You can upvote questions. So if you want to have a question answered, you can upvote that. But I'm just going to cheat. And I'm just going to ask my question because I'm the host and I can do that. So the question that I have too is when we're doing something ethically, when we're ethically hacking something, we obviously have parameters that we have to work within. Is there anything that we have to look out for that could be a legal issue if we perhaps access the wrong things? Do we have to be careful of that when we're starting our ethical hacking journey?
Yeah, this is why I was stressing the fact that when you go on those bug bounties platform, it's really important to read their rule of game, because they will let you know which endpoint you can test, which URLs, which API you can actually test. And if you do test outside of this scope, this is where it's actually illegal. And usually when you test on these platforms, as I mentioned, you do sign an NDA when you're doing so. So you ask permission to actually test those. If you haven't signed an NDA and you actually find one vulnerability, then you can come up to these platforms and try to find those programs. And usually HackerOne, Background Integrity, and other platform will help you to actually convey this report and be on the safe place. But as I mentioned during the demo, I wasn't supposed to have the code base on my machine, because you can consider it as an IP, intellectual property, that I actually copy and had on my machine. You should actually do all of the things with the traversal to have the information. So just make sure to not have copies of databases, user information, and all of those. Make sure to stay in the scope of the testing. And make sure to provide a detailed reports of all of the commands that you've done, because potentially the security team, developer team will actually look at the logs. They could potentially look at what you've done in their systems.
That's great. Thanks so much for that. We have another question here now. There's actually kind of a lot of similar questions about this, and I think that maybe Snyk Learn might be a good place. But if people want to get started, where do the beginners go to kind of? What would be your first steps, maybe to start with, and then what would be the journey kind of beyond that, do you think?
Sure. So there are a couple of websites, good websites, and also free platform where you can start this learning journey, which are Try Hack Me and Hack the Box. There's two great platforms where you can create an account and actually try to pwn those machines. So Try Hack Me, they do have, which I find it a little bit more beginner friendly, because they do have those rooms with step-by-step and walkthrough. When you feel a bit more confident, you can go on Hack the Box and try to hack the beginner machines. So this is potentially a good one. But there's other platforms. You can also try the OS Shop as well, which is an online retail shop that has a lot of vulnerabilities. There's also PicoCTF. There's a lot of those platforms. There's also, yes, as you've mentioned, both. Hack the Box has an academy where you can actually learn a bit more. They do have modules on specific vulnerabilities on how to do those ethical hacking methodologies and workflows. So this is to help you on that path.
Excellent. And there's a couple of more questions along that. I don't think we need to answer them. Are there courses to get into? I think you've done, there are courses, there are certifications, but if you want to start, I think that those are the places to start.
Yeah, I would say if you want to also demonstrate those to recruiters, and you might not have the budget to actually do the certifications, is try to start with try hack me, then move to hack the box, and when you manage to pwn the box, try to write a walkthrough, a detailed walkthrough on which tools you've actually used, the commands, what was the results, and also recommendations, and then you can start working on creating a portfolio of walkthroughs, and this is something that you could potentially show to recruiters, because you will have hands-on specific tools and the methodology, which is important because you want to demonstrate these skills.
Yeah, that's really cool, because perhaps people don't realize, but there are certifications that you can get, and they go on the end of your, a lot of people have them on the end of their LinkedIn profiles, and a lot of them are great, and it can show the recruiters that you know what you're talking about. But by golly, some of them are so expensive to do, and I feel like what you're saying is that if you don't have the budget to that, then if you document it, then that can be a place to get you started. That's fantastic advice. Now, you touched on AI, and we had a question here from Abdullah, who says, how do you think generative AI will affect your day as an ethical hacker and the cybersecurity field as a whole? Are there real-world applications? So you've kind of touched on this, but is there anything more that you could kind of add on that? Are you using AI when you're doing ethical hacking today?
So here we're talking about generative AI. So this is the code that is generated through Copilot, through ChatGPT, and the other LLMs. So this would depend on what you're doing about this code. So it's great to have those tools. So let's say if we're producing code through ChatGPT, what I would recommend is it would be the same as when you copy paste code from Stack Overflow. Do you have security tools? So it could be GitGuardian, Snyk, just to make sure that you have a pipeline to make sure that you're scanning the code that you will introduce into your code base. So you can use these tools. Just make sure to double check and make sure to understand what you're actually putting into your code base. So the problematic that you might have copy pasting Stack Overflow would be the same with the code generated through different LLMs. But also, this was an open question for not generative AI, but any of the ethical hacking AI tools. Those are powered by AI. This is interesting. It's always the same as with any tools. Have a good understanding of the tools that you're using, and also make sure that you're using as an assistant. Don't lean only on your tool. Make sure to double check every time the results, the output, just to make sure that it doesn't produce hallucinations or false positive or false negative in a sense. So just make sure to use it as an assistant. When you're stuck, or you need better ideas or explanation, for example, line by line for code or for an exploit. It depends on the usage that you're actually doing it on AI.
Amazing answer. And I need to go on to the next slide just to do my next promotion before we all leave. But we do have time for a couple more questions. But there's going to be another webinar, 29th of November. You can register this. You'll see a pop-up right now so that you can actually register now. This is a mystery webinar, not because we don't know what we're talking about. We actually do. It's an awesome topic, but we're keeping it a secret for reasons that will become known later on. So make sure you join that for everything. But maybe a couple more questions. This one I find quite interesting. What overlap does an ethical hacker have in the day-to-day with a typical software engineer? And what I kind of think, perhaps I'm interpreting this wrong, but if you're in a company and perhaps you're a red teamer or you're on the AppSec team, how do you interact with the software engineers? How does that? Do you have any advice for how to interact perhaps with software engineers and help them and not just be, the opposite team, let's say?
Sure. So the most important thing is the culture that you have in the organization. So these security teams should be enablers. They shouldn't be blockers or gates for the developers. They should have that collaboration piece and communicate with the team. So it's usually a good thing, for example, doing this kind of webinars with live hacking demos during lunch break, or organizing this within the company, so the developers have a better understanding of what is happening in the cybersecurity space, because it's quite exciting when we talk about hacking. Everyone is interested to know, to have a better understanding of it. So this is a good way actually to increase the culture and just to break the silos between both teams. You can also gamify it. So you can dedicate a day on just to make sure that you go through the backlog of security vulnerabilities, and you have the security team doing some training, explaining the vulnerability, sitting down with the developers, just to have that collaboration and communication piece. This could also go through the security champion program, for example. So you would have a security champion is basically a developer that is acting as a bridge between security and developer team. They could also upskill through this program. So there are several ways to do so, but the company should make sure that security team are enablers. That's the most important thing.
That's awesome. Well, look, I'm looking at the time now, and we've come to the absolute end. But it's been an awesome webinar. Sonya, I want to thank you so much for coming on here, because not only did you do an awesome job and provide amazing context, but you also broke the record of the biggest webinar we've ever had. So you are most welcome to come anytime you want. So 1,700 people registered for this. That's mind-bending to me. We had, I think we had more people than the collective first 3 webinar or 10 webinars that we did or something. So we've been doing this for a couple of years. So make sure you stick around and check out our other webinars. But Sonya, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for attending and participating. We'll send a follow-up email with some links that will include links like the Snyk Academy and other areas like that. So if you're wanting to know all those links and the white papers and everything that was mentioned, don't stress. You'll get an email with all that information there. So if we could give Sonya a big send-off with the emojis, I see they're going, and I'm going to hit the big red button. Thank you all, and I wish you all a pleasant day or evening wherever in the world that you are.
Thank you.